Trump's tariff war has begun, and now many Chinese sellers have suspended shipments. Everyone is waiting and seeing, unsure if this business model can still continue. Some time ago, China and the US decided to enter negotiations. Oh, with the 90-day postponement, shipment volume started to surge. All of this shows that when you're doing international business, there are always risks involved. Political risks like exchange rates are uncontrollable. Now, my suggestion is that we can consider selling products that are made in the US, sourcing products locally in America in certain categories such as food, or in areas where you can sell based on sentiment or cultural appeal. This could be a good approach. Just like Trump's slogan about making America great again, he claimed his hats were made in the USA, but it turned out they were actually made in China. Still, this kind of American sentiment has a market. There are people who are willing to pay for it. When I sell products in my own store, there are still people who ask where the item is made. I tell them it's made in China, and those people definitely won't buy it if they're asking that question. There's a high chance they won't make a purchase. The advantage of sourcing from within the US is that you don't have to deal with any tariff issues, because many manufacturers in the US are also having a hard time running their businesses right now. They're more willing to accept small orders. So you could say this is actually a pretty good time. Let's take a look at how many sellers there are on Amazon. According to this article, Amazon has there are about 9.7 million sellers with a little over 1 million actively operating. Some sellers may register, but then stop doing business because it's not profitable, though their accounts remain. According to Amazon's own data, 60% of their sales come from third-party sellers. For small sellers like us, in 2024, there were 55, zero sellers whose sales reached 1 million. But keep in mind, that's sales, not profit, because profit can't really be tracked. In the US market, on average, these sellers had sales of 2.9 million in 2024. So what does this number tell us? It shows that the competition is quite intense. Now, what's the first way to make money on Amazon? If you're in the US, you can go to stores and buy the same products. Maybe they're cheaper at Walmart and then resell them on Amazon. For example, a toy that costs $5 can be sold for $16 on Amazon. But with this model, you constantly have to go to stores to look for different products. And once a product is sold out, you basically can't keep making money from it. You have to keep searching for new products, going to stores and checking them one by one. It's not a good way to generate passive income. The second method is to go to those wholesale websites or wholesalers, purchase these products, and then sell them on Amazon. But with this model, because these sources are public, if you can find a wholesaler, others can also put their products online to sell. In the end, it often means that everyone is selling the same product. The competition becomes quite fierce, and ultimately, you might not make any money either. There's another model that many people have heard of, which is creating your own private label. But what's the issue with doing your own private label? Registering a brand is actually quite easy. You can buy a wire for just a few cents. And after adding your own brand to it, for example, if you look at Apple charging cables, you'll see the data. The official store sells them for 18 yuan. Some sell for 8 or 9 yuan. This one sells for 8, that one for 9, and this one for 5 yuan. Even at 5 yuan, the profit still seems decent. If my cost is only 0.3 yuan, the problem with this kind of product is that it's highly homogeneous. If you use the same method to build a brand, you can do it, but so can others. In the end, when everyone rushes in to make identical products, the price will likely get driven down. You see, just now it was a little over 5 yuan, and here my teammate found a product that's being advertised, selling for 5.99 yuan. There are just too many of these homogeneous products, so in the end, the profit margin is very low. Plus, Amazon's advertising costs are very high, so your final profit might not even cover your ad expenses. That's why this third approach is also quite challenging in today's environment. So you'll find that while it's not impossible to make money with a 4 yuan product, it's probably quite difficult. That's why 99% of sellers are saying that the Amazon model doesn't work anymore. Because if you look at the data, if your supply is too high while demand remains unchanged, then in the end, everyone is selling the same product and can only rely on lowering prices to boost sales. In this case, it means no one is making any money. Plus, About 4,000 new sellers are joining Amazon every day, and Amazon's FBA fees are also increasing every year. So you can't rely on these traditional ways to make money are gone. So what should you do in this situation? Amazon is projected to reach about 700 billion in sales by 2025, and this number will continue to grow in 2026. Amazon has over 200 million Prime members, and these people pay for Prime in hopes of getting faster delivery. Because of this, the Prime membership is right there, and all you need to do is offer a better product. Now, I'll tell you how to approach this product. Let me give you a suggestion. What kind of product should it be? For example, if it's a cutting board, let's take a look at this product. This one is maybe made in the USA, this one is made in Canada, and this one is made in the USA as well. It's selling for $80 to $100, and last week it sold 300 units. These figures are all official numbers from Amazon, and they're accurate, not just guesses. Then this one is from Canada, priced at $70, and it sold 600 units. As for the rest, most of them are basically produced overseas, including places like China, Indonesia, or India places, where these products are more commonly made. If we compare the sales of this product to others, of course it's not as high, but this product, the profit margin for this product is definitely higher. Look, if we search for wood cutting board and then add made in USA at the end, you see here, or in places where mating appears, there are definitely people specifically searching for made in USA only. If we look at those that can use the label made in USA only, just now that one sold 50 units. Those 600 units were in Canada. Look, if we target this keyword and run ads for it, the advertising cost isn't as high. Let's check how much it's worth in a bit. Basically, for this kind of product, the unit price and profit are both high, so you don't have to compete with those homogeneous products. Even though your sales volume isn't as large, if your profit margin is higher, then even with fewer sales, your total profit might not actually be less than others. Now we are in the Amazon ads backend. Here, let's take a look at how much it costs in ad spend for each click on a keyword. Take a look at wood cutting board. It costs about 2.15 or 2.37 per click. Usually we refer to this as VAC or phrase match, but I'll explain that in more detail later. And if you look at wood cutting board made in USA, it's 2.2 or 2.25 per click. Then the wood cutting board made in USA only, 2.19, 2.22. Spending a little over 2 per click on ads in the current situation, 2025, is actually not considered high. For many keywords, a single click might cost 5, 6, 6, 7, or even over 10 or 20. Although wood cutting board made in USA is also quite expensive at 2.2 per click, people who actually search for these keywords definitely won't buy cutting boards that aren't made in the USA. So coming back to the product page, even though you're paying the same amount per click, you can see there are so many competing products here, but the likelihood of someone buying your product in this context is much higher, especially if your click-through conversion rate is relatively high since your product is indeed made in the USA. That is to say, if someone clicks your ad and ends up making a purchase, your conversion rate will be higher, and as a result, your advertising costs will go down. It won't be 2.2 anymore. It might only be 1.2 or 1.5. That's why made in USA is currently a pretty good opportunity. After you've selected your product on Amazon, the second step is brand design. You can hire someone to do the brand design for you, but that will cost money. Since it's your first time, you'll definitely want to save money, so just learn how others do it. For example, take a look at this product. Let me show you, see how their page is designed. This is a cutting board, and on the cutting board there's a finger guard attached. The finger guard has the product's logo clearly displayed on it, and they deliberately put the American flag on it with Made in USA written in big bold letters. Below that, it lists the size, then the material. It's made of black pine wooden, and then it says it's a cutting board. Then, looking at their second image, it's someone chopping vegetables. If there's anything that could be improved based on my experience, I think making This picture a bit larger showing someone chopping vegetables on the cutting board might make the image even better. Next, let's look at the third image. In this picture, they've listed the advantages. They say that this is made from real wood with no tiny plastic particles, which is all for health considerations. Then, the cutting board is polished with coconut oil, and the glue we use is also food safe. This cutting board won't dull your knives though, whether that's really the case, I'm not sure. It's also 100% made in the USA, and if you take good care of it, it can last for a very, very long time. Then he said again, oh, this is our product. Oh, this means it's an imported product. There may be certain things imported products can or cannot do. For example, is ours really made of real wood? Is it really using high quality glue? Will it actually dull your knife? If it's a plastic cutting board, then it doesn't have any of these advantages. The meaning of this picture is probably that the vegetables have been cut. In other words, it means everything is ready. This one highlights that it's made in the USA, and there's also a made in USA logo drawn here. Plus, the size is marked on it, saying we have all kinds of sizes. It shows the space and it shows the details. There should be a video here, since videos can also boost sales. This is a big shortcut. Let's take another look at the product description. You can take your time to experience this yourself. If you don't want to hire someone to help you build your brand, then you'll have to study these things on your own. How do you study them? Mainly by looking at your competition and how your competitors are doing it. There's nothing particularly attractive here. For example, let's go back and look at the descriptions of non-US made products and see how those are written. Let's look at this one. This seller has sold over 4,000 units. Let's check it out. They sold more than 4,000. Okay, looking at their images, they show several boards bundled together, highlighting that these are made from organic bamboo. Here, they also display some details, dimensions, and how the product is used like cutting meat. All of this is shown in images, and they don't have a video either. This image is exactly what I was talking about. You can show a person happily cutting food. If it were up to me, I would put this picture in the second position. Let's see if there's anything particularly eye-catching further down on their page. Here it says design in Atlanta, meaning it's designed in Atlanta. This one is from Canada because compared to the US, products from Canada are considered more high-end. You see here, they have a vid frequency. Making this video isn't complicated either. Having a video will increase your conversion rate and boost your sales. Now let's look at the two products side by side. This one is the product made in the US. As we just mentioned, it doesn't have a video. The Canadian product, on the other hand, has a video here. We'll talk about the specific details later. Let's take another look at the product description. If you look at this product's description section, it gives me the impression that it's done better than the other one. Look at the product description here. The image is relatively large, while the other one only has a small image, just one, which makes it look rather sparse. Look at this image below it compares the advantages and disadvantages. And then there's an even larger image with the dimensions listed on it, also highlighting the advantages. Generally speaking, if you look at this product, you would definitely be more willing to buy this one. So if you decide to create your own product, you should learn from your competitors, see how they do things, and learn from their strengths. Our third step is to look for suppliers in the United States. How do we find them? Go to this website, thomasnet.com. It's like Alibaba in China. When we search for wood cutting board on Alibaba, a list of manufacturers comes up. As for the prices, it's not that anyone can actually buy at those prices. You have to ask them for a quote. On Thomasnet, it's the same. You'll see a list of manufacturers, and it says there are 225 suppliers. You have to contact them one by one as well. When you see contact the supplier, you need to reach out to them too. Because these products are made in the United States, you won't have to deal with tariff issues. After we've contacted each one, we finally choose a supplier. And let's say we place an order for 500 units at a time. The products are shipped directly from the factory to Amazon's warehouse. Amazon FBA stands for Fulfillment by Amazon, which means Amazon helps us store our products. And whenever we make a sale, Amazon handles the shipping and delivers the product straight to the customer. This way, since our products are stored in Amazon's warehouse, they automatically qualify for Prime. With Prime eligibility, if customers are Prime members, they can receive the product in as little as 1 or 2 days after purchase. The final step is to list your product on Amazon. Just like I mentioned earlier, if you don't want to hire a third party to help you with product design, listing, or linking, you can simply learn to do it yourself by studying how others do it. Because all this information is public on Amazon. Just look at who is selling the best and learn from them. But don't copy and paste everything exactly because that could involve infringement. For example, you can't just take this sentence and put it on your own product listing without changing a word that would be considered infringement. Similarly, these icons can't be used either. As for these specific details, I've listed them all in my 6-hour course. Even though that course was made 5 years ago, the basic information, details, and requirements haven't changed. So you can refer to that course. As mentioned earlier, since the example we're discussing today is about products made in the USA, the main point is to sell the sentiment behind it, not just the product itself. So you need to highlight why it's made in the USA, what its advantages are, and tell that story well. Once you've told that story effectively, your product will stand out from the many similar products on Amazon. Then you'll be able to sell at a higher price and generate greater profit. Although your product sales volume may not be very high, your total profit might not necessarily be less than others. As I mentioned before, my course doesn't use any paid tools. But now, after 5 years on Amazon, if you only use free tools, it might be more difficult to find these products. Not that it's impossible, but it will be harder. So I will also gradually explain to everyone how to use some of the more popular tools nowadays, such as Helium 10 or Jungle Scout, to select products and decide which product to sell in the end. For example, how did I find that wood cutting board product just now? It was when I was searching for Made in USA that I happened to notice this product. When I select products, I usually compare the IQ score and the search volume in Helium 10. We'll go into the details about this gradually in the future.